I've talked a lot about the loop in WordPress, which is the key process for finding posts and pages, and in this case we're finding all the posts in a particular category for an author. So it's absolutely vital to understand the loop, and that's what we're going to do now is really delve into it in more detail so that you can get the basics of it. And here is the most basic loop you could have. And what it's doing is it's saying if we have posts. Now what does that mean? Well, behind the scenes, typically in WordPress, there's a query going on, a call to the database. This is generated by the URL to begin with, and it automatically tells WordPress start looking for a particular post or start looking for everything in a category. Whatever it's doing, that's triggered by the URL, and that query is wrapped in this have posts basically. So it says if the query is returning anything, if there are any posts, then start looping through them using the PHP while function. While I have some posts, here's one of them, and I'm going to find its title, then I'm going to get its content, then I'm going to go back and check if there's any more posts. Yes, they meet the criteria. Good, let me give the title, let me give the content. Finally, I get to the end of it. No more posts meet the criteria. I've reached the end of my loop, the end while. We also have the end if here, and we'll see why that can be useful too. But really, the loop technically ends here, but there's a little bit we can always put on at the end. All right, now that's not terribly interesting. One thing we should mention, by the way, this is a good example. This title tag here, that's a template tag in WordPress. It will only work inside the loop. And in the documentation for WordPress, you'll see this. It'll say this template tag only works inside of the loop. The reason for that is this right here, the post, we need that in order to get the title. The title on its own, there's nothing to reference. And same with the content. So those are the kinds of tags that are dependent on being in the loop. All right. Now that we're in a loop, let's do something a little more interesting. So here we've got our if, then our while. Then we do another if here. We say, let's check this post. If it's in category 45, then I'm going to start my div a bit differently. Then I have an else. Else if it's not in category 45, in other words, every other post, do this. Start the div this way. We end off our if. We would just want to make it clear that we've ended our if here. Now we can proceed to do everything else. And this time it does it for any post. It doesn't matter whether it's in category 45 or not. It'll do this. So now we're starting to see how you can do things within the loop. Let's see it really at work in the 2010 theme, the basic theme that comes with WordPress. Here's the start of our loop up here. Now this is loop.php, so this is the default loop that it's going to go to for any case. We're starting here. Now we're going to have three gigantic if statements. And it starts off right here, if, and then it says, if it's in the gallery format, then do the following. And notice we're doing a lot here. In fact, we've got some if statements within the gallery section. Another if statement, if it has images, do this. If it doesn't, then do this. Ending that large if there. And then we get to this else if. Now we're getting to the second of our large chunks. Now we're asking, is it an aside format? If it is, then do this. Again, we've got some more conditionals within it. You can see how much you can do within the sections of the loop. Finally, we get to else. Else is saying, if it's not a gallery, if it's not an aside, then do the following things. And again, we've got some more if statements in here. So you can see how complex you can get within a loop. There's our final end while, so we're done the loop. Now remember I mentioned you can do something after the end while, and in fact that's what we're doing here is we're saying put in some navigation. After all the posts have been gone through, after you've done the loop, then do a little navigation at the bottom if it meets certain criteria. So there are some examples of using a loop and how powerful it can get. Now, of course, we'll go into details when we're creating specific customizations for our theme, and you'll see how we make use of this loop. But I wanted you to have a little better understanding of how the loop works itself, and then we can go on to make great use of it.